everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Football Universe. I'm Jeremy Shulman at FF Rebel. Underneath me, we have Jesse Moeller at JMoeller05. We are here for the 10-round Superflex Dynasty Startup Mock Draft. This is our first edition of the offseason. We're going to mock it out, see where these guys falls, and we have included rookies this time. So lots changing, watching the combine and some O-linemen right now. That's probably not going to affect much, but yesterday sure did. Jesse, how you doing? How you feeling? And are you ready for this mock?
I am as ready as I'm gonna be. Let me tell you what, we were talking about the ADP and kind of how all over the place it is with these sleeper drafts. So if you are in a sleeper draft room and you are doing a startup, you will massively notice just how just out of whack that Dynasty ADP is. So if you're drafting, you kind of have to come in with your own rules and who you prefer, because you're not going to find the guy where you want to see them. So just keep that in mind when you're drafting. So this is kind of like us experimenting with the rookies, throwing it all in there. But overall, yeah, man. I mean, we have the combine going on yesterday. It was a major day. You were there. You saw all the fun players that shined out. Today it's linemen, so it's not as exciting for us fantasy players. But they're going to be guys going to offenses. They're going to open up holes for running backs and the quarterbacks. So overall, I think it was just a great weekend that we get to continue off throughout.
Yeah, man. And we had some big risers, a couple of fallers as well. We were checking out the RAS scores yesterday, and we have another pod there that you guys can check out to see our thoughts on the first couple of days of the combine. And those things are going to factor in immediately. It certainly did change our 3-round rookie mock that we posted last night. And it's going to change the way that we take these guys and how we view them and the rest of the players here in Dynasty. So I don't know, Jesse, I think we got the 101 and we got SC lined up. So what do you say we fire this off?
Well, let's get this bad boy rolling. I'm more than excited to start this one up. So one sec. Problem is Aaron is controlling this draft, so I don't know when this is going to start. So yippee.
Well, while we wait for this to start and SC waits with bated breath here, who are we, looking at now in the first round? I know it's super flex, right? So we're looking at quarterbacks for sure. But in years past, it depends obviously what room you're in, but sometimes it's 10, 11 quarterbacks in the first round. Sometimes, it's Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, boom, 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 wide receivers. And, even as far back as 2 years ago, we were taking a ton of running backs in the first round. So how do you like to approach the first round, and what do you kind of expect to see here or in most Dynasty startup drafts?
Yeah, so for me, it's changed over the first years. When I first got into Dynasty, I was like, oh yeah, I'll punt quarterback. I'll get Kirk Cousins. I'll get these guys, right? And I'll have the capable guys that nobody likes, but they just produce fancy points. Now I've shifted just because the market's so heavy on quarterbacks. If you do not get them early in startups, like, you're constantly chasing them, and this is going to be the cheapest they will be for your entire time, especially with these elite guys like the Josh Allens, the Burrows, the Lamars, the Strouds. And then we get into the rookies where we talk about, Caleb Williams, where he's going basically on the turn first round already. Like, he's a first round startup pick. We get Drake May in the second. Same thing with, why am I blanking on his name? My favorite, Jane Daniels. He's also in there too. So yeah, if it's really the haves and the have-nots at quarterbacks. Because if you look at how startup ADP goes, it's about QB 11 is Kyler Murray going in the mid-second. After that, it's basically pick your quarterback. There's about 5 or 6 guys that you can make a case for, but those are like the truly elite quarterbacks. And then it's just like, all right, why am I paying the vast majority for a second-round pick when I could get like Goff in the 4th or Bryce Young in the 5th? Like, so you kind of have to weigh the cost versus the startup build and how you go about that. What do you look for when you're going through a startup mock? Are you basically like trying to find your best value, or are you coming in like playing the market kind of like water?
Yeah, I mean, you that's the old adage, right? You're Bruce Lee, you're like water, and I think the fantasy community has adopted that as much as possible, because it's changing on a pick by pick basis in terms of where you need to look, right? So for example, I'm sat here in this particular mock at 110. I like to kind of be at the back end because I find that a strength of mine is kind of being able to pick out value where it's left on the board. But in the beginning, that's kind of not what you're doing. You're more or less looking for the guys that you want to go with. And, everyone's kind of got a plan from the jump. So, but it changes, right? So for example, if I'm at 110 and 8 quarterbacks go off the board, chances are, again, I'm not too comfortable with it, but in years past, I would have taken a quarterback and then I would have punted my QB2, right?
Yeah.
But now it might be interesting. Quarterback is kind of so deep, and there's a lot of young guys coming in that it may be beneficial if 8 QBs go off the board before the 8 QBs and Justin Jefferson. Then I'm sitting at the 110 instead of taking Jamar Chase or Brees Hall. I might be looking at just grabbing 2 quarterbacks as it turns around, and then filling out the rest of my roster from there. But personally, I've had a lot of success punting quarterback. Like you said, taking the Kirk Cousins and, not this past season, but Daniel Jones or Geno Smith, finding those QBs that fall. Like this year, Trevor Lawrence could be one of those who falls out of the first round, depending, again, on how many quarterbacks go. Dak could be one of those. And those guys have the potential and ability to be plenty productive and add that rushing element that you like to see at quarterback. So the short answer is, I'm going to see how the board falls. But the longer answer is, we all go in with a plan. And as long as we can execute on that plan early, I think in the first round Superflex, you probably going quarterback unless things go crazy.
Yeah, and a guy who was really highly valued last year, even though he struggled going into it, was Deshaun Watson. And now he's really just tanked as far as value goes. And this is kind of the make or break for year for him in Dynasty, where people are still willing to pay like top 5 startup pick value for him. If he struggles again this year, people are just going to throw their hands up and treat him like Russell Wilson, where it's like, all right, I can get him QB like round 10. So you kind of have to make the assurance. And the key with the guys that you're taking in the first round is not just like the skill set and how good they are. It's how insulated they are. That is such a key aspect of them. It's the floor that they present. Because they're, even if, say, like Jordan Love struggles, like Kyler Murray struggles, or, like we get in the higher guys like Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, if they have a bad year, they get injured, their value's not going anywhere. Like, that asset's going to stay secure. You might drop to like the 110, 202 or whatever it is, but you still have a top 24 starter pick.
Yeah. It's
not like a Tua Tagovailoa situation where he could fall to the 4th round, or, like Bryce Young. I get it. He was the 101 last year in rookie drafts, but he could completely fall, just like we're talking about with Deshaun Watson. Bryce Young has a thing going for him too, because he was abysmal as a rookie. So he needs to show it out. So you kind of have to, weigh the pros and cons of like why it's so important to get those truly elite quarterbacks. And then if you're punting it, you have to realize like a year from now, if you punt and they don't hit, like you could be dealing with 0 quarterbacks on your roster. That's the life of living kind of on the edge. And I mean, I've played that way forever. I don't mind personally living on the edge, because then you can just transition into a rebuild, kick the whole thing off, go full circle with it. But it's an interesting kind of like a thought process to play out in your head to see like, all right, here's where I'm going to go going into the draft. Is this value going to work? Are guys going to be in that tier I hope they are? Do I trade back? Do I trade up? Like, where do I go from here? So I think Dynasty startup drafts are always a fun mental exercise, personally.
Yeah. And especially in a Superflex draft, and in a Superflex mock draft, I'm super interested in kind of pushing those boundaries a little bit and figuring out where that quarterback value is if I don't take 2 quarterbacks really early. So not to preview my strategy here, but I probably won't go quarterback. We'll see. But, if I don't, and I'm looking to fill that QB2 hole a little bit later on, right? I'm trying to figure out if, what's the value of a Baker Mayfield right now? What's the value of Jared Goff? And where do we feel, comfortable taking those guys? Is it 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 8th round? So we'll see. But we kicked it off here, Jesse. So why don't you run us through what we got so far and what you're thinking at the 105?
All right. So it's Superflex. So no doubt in anyone's mind, we know how those first 4 are going. I am a little surprised to see Burrow go ahead of Lamar and CJ Stroud, but it's the big 3. Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, like those are the tier of themselves, those guys, just because the fancy points they provide, it's such an edge. Like they have that. And then we get into Joe Burrow, 104. Like this is tier 2 for me at quarterback, and why I picked 105. I kind of wanted to be in the middle and just play this tier out for me personally, because I don't have much of a difference with the 2. Like I love Lamar with his rushing upside. You could go CJ Stroud. If you want to go really bold here, you can make the case for Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or CeeDee Lamb, those top 3 wide receivers. There's no way in heck I'm doing that. You're just assuming a lot of risk personally. Like I need those tier 2 quarterbacks to be gone before I consider those wide receivers. Yep. And this gets into the case of like why I have Caleb Williams as 101 is because it's not just like the floor, it's also the ceiling. There's no situation where like no matter how good Justin Jefferson, he's ever going to be the 101 startups. Like that's just not in the cards for him. Whereas Caleb Williams, he could be like past Mahomes at some point and be the 101 startup pick. So you kind of have to like realize with the positional value and scarcity of quarterbacks, they'll always get a leg up. So for me personally, I'm a big Lamar guy. Like I still prefer him over CJ Stroud. You could take CJ Stroud here. It's really up to you guys, but locking in just the elite quarterback, I think, is the way to go here. So I'm going to take Lamar, not worry about my quarterback. I'll have a legit QB1 and go from there.
Yep.
And then, Stroud goes right after that.
Yeah, Stroud right away, of course. And there it is, right? Okay. This is interesting for me. Like I am, so the last few picks, right? We had Stroud at 106, 107 is Jefferson, 108 CD Lamb, and 109 is Justin Herbert. So for me here, and maybe not for everybody, but there's an interesting kind of tier break here at quarterback, right? I know a lot of people are kind of quick to throw Anthony Richardson in this tier. I know we have Kyler Murray who's sitting there. I know we have Jordan Love and Brock Purdy, and those guys are all kind of in the conversation, right? And so depending on the flavor and your belief about fantasy, and do you want that elite youth with relative safety and Brock Purdy in a great system, or do you want kind of the intense upside of Jordan Love and everything that he showed out with last season and all those weapons, or of the even more intense upside of an Anthony Richardson who is kind of completely unknown but looked great in a small sample? And so for me, all of those quarterbacks are kind of the end of the tier. I think you would argue last year that Trevor Lawrence was kind of part of this previous tier. Now, after last season, it's really hard to kind of group him in with that second tier that you were mentioning there. So for me, there's really only one option as Aaron joins us from, I don't know, the strip mall. I don't know what's going on over there.
I'm trying to find our third box. I don't know what it is.
But for me, I'm going to risk it here that all of those quarterbacks that I mentioned that are possibilities here at the 110 for me are kind of lumped into the same group. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll the dice and take Jamar Chase, and then we're going to see what comes back around at quarterback. It's likely with this strategy after Aaron goes at the 112 that I'm going to be picking up a quarterback here at the 203.
Yeah, we can hear you.
You're good.
I can't stay. Yeah, I got in an accident at work. That's why I didn't get the draft started on time.
Oh, jeez. Shit.
Well,
I got here.
Seems like you're okay at least.
I looked and I said, "Oh, yeah, someone hit my bus. I'm in a bus, so it's fine." But I looked and
someone
I said,
hit your bus, not you hit someone.
Yeah. No, they hit my bus and they messed up their car. But I looked and I said, "Oh, I was supposed to start this draft 14 minutes ago, so I gotta go." I just want to let you know that's why I didn't get it done on time. I got in an accident.
Well, glad you're okay, but you're picking on the turn here.
I know. Okay, I gotta go. I'll pick it. I gotta re-pick that for myself.
Okay. See it.